The following podcast is based on publicly available documents and reporting. All facts presented are drawn from verified sources. Certain scenes are dramatized or reconstructed for clarity and storytelling purposes. All individuals are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Listener discretion is advised. Blood and Soil, Episode 1. The Declaration. The Rise and Fall of the Order. In the winter of 1983, a man sat down at a typewriter in a farmhouse in rural Washington state. Outside, there's pine trees, frost on the ground, absolute quiet. Inside sat one man, one idea, and a belief that what he was about to type would change the course of American history. He called himself Robert J. Matthews. He was 30 years old, a former Mormon, former member of a tax protest group, father of one. He typed, "We hereby declare ourselves a free and sovereign people. We reclaim our land. We reclaim our blood. We reclaim our destiny." He called his group the Order, also known as the Silent Brotherhood, also known in FBI files you can request today as what the Bureau would later call the most dangerous domestic terror group in America. In the 18 months that followed, they robbed armored cars. They counterfeited millions of dollars. They bombed a synagogue. They assassinated a man in Denver, Colorado. And Robert Matthews died in a burning house on an island in Puget Sound, surrounded by FBI agents. He was 31 years old. This is the story of the Order. Every fact in this episode is documented in federal court transcripts, in FBI files, in testimony of survivors, former members, and law enforcement. You can find them. I'll tell you exactly where to look. The man before the Order, Robert Matthews. He was born the 16th of September, 1953, in Marfa, Texas. Raised in Phoenix, Arizona. Middle-class family. By most accounts, a serious, intense child. The kind of kid who read history books for fun. Who asked questions teachers weren't prepared to answer. His family called him Robbie. Even into adulthood, that's what his close friends used. Investigative journalists Kevin Flynn and Gary Gerhardt, who interviewed Matthews' mother and people who knew him for their definitive 1989 book, The Silent Brotherhood, described him in this way. Generous, hardworking, an ingratiating smile. He never smoked, didn't curse, didn't drink at the taverns. He was, by the accounts of people who knew him in Medellin Falls, a good neighbor. None of the Order's members had prior criminal records. Not one. At 11 years old, he joined the John Birch Society, a far-right political organization founded in 1958. Anti-communist, anti-government, deeply suspicious of federal power. Robert didn't just join, he recruited other kids. By 15, he was reading literature the John Birch Society considered too extreme. By 18, he'd moved on to Christian identity. Christian identity emerged in the mid-20th century. White Europeans as the true Israelites. Jewish people as descendants of Satan. People of color as, quoting their doctrine, pre-Adamic mud people without souls. A racial ideology dressed in biblical language. In rural America in the 1970s, it was spreading through pamphlets, shortwave radio, mimeographed newsletters passed hand to hand. In 1974, Matthews moved to rural Arizona, started a tax protest organization called the White American Bastion. When that failed, he moved to Medellin Falls, Washington. Population, fewer than 300. Surrounded by mountains and forest. He built a homestead, started farming, had a son with his partner. From the outside, it looked like a man who'd found peace. From the inside, he was building something. Reading, writing, corresponding with like-minded men across the country. And in 1983, he drove south to Hayden Lake, Idaho, to a compound in the woods called Aryan Nations. Aryan Nations. A compound surrounded by 12-foot wooden fence, guard towers at the corners, a church building in the center, whitewashed, simple. A sign at the gate, white Christian patriots welcome, Zog agents, turn back, Zog. Zionist occupational government. The term used in white supremacist ideology to describe what they believe is a Jewish-controlled federal government. Aryan Nations was founded by Richard Butler, a retired aerospace engineer from California. By the early 1980s, Aryan Nations was hosting annual congresses, men driving in from across the country, from neo-Nazi organizations, Ku Klux Klan factions, and Christian identity churches. Robert Matthews attended the 1983 Aryan Nations Congress. He sat through days of speeches about the coming race war, about the need for action, not words, not pamphlets, not meetings. Action. On the last night of the Congress, Matthews stood up. In a room full of men who'd spent years talking about what needed to be done, he said it was time to stop talking. 9 men followed him outside that night. It's September in northern Idaho. The air smells like pine sap and cold coming in off the mountains. The compound lights are behind them now. 9 men in the dark. They stood in a circle. They took an oath. The FBI would later recover the text from the home of one of Matthews' co-conspirators. It reads, in part, I, as a free Aryan man, hereby swear unrelenting oath upon the green graves of our sires, upon the children in the wombs of our wives, upon the throne of God Almighty, sacred in his name, to join together in holy battle for the preservation of my people, my heritage, and the freedom of my fatherland. They called themselves the Order, named after a fictional white supremacist organization in a novel called The Turner Diaries, a book that would later be found in the possession of Timothy McVeigh. Timothy McVeigh was an American domestic terrorist who masterminded and executed the Oklahoma City bombing on the 19th of April 1995, motivated by extremist anti-government views and rage over federal raids at Waco and Ruby Ridge. He detonated a truck bomb at the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building, killing 168 people. The Order moved fast, faster than the FBI expected. Their first operation, October 1983. A robbery in an adult bookstore in Spokane, Washington. They netted $369. It was almost comically small for what they had planned, but it wasn't about the money. It was about the act, the crossing of a line. December 1983, they robbed the bank in Spokane. $25,897. March 1984, the Continental Armored Transport robbery in Seattle. $43,000. They were learning, organizing, recruiting. By the spring of 1984, the Order had grown from 9 men to more than 30. spread across Washington, Idaho, Montana, and Colorado. They were sending money to other white supremacist organizations, to Aryan nations, to the white Aryan resistance. They saw themselves not as criminals, but as soldiers, funding a revolution. April 23, 1984, the Brinks armored car robbery in Ukiah, California. Months of planning, multiple vehicles, coordinated timing. They took $3.6 million. $3.6 million in one afternoon. The FBI took notice. But they didn't know who they were looking for yet. The order had one more escalation planned. And it wasn't a robbery. Alan Berg was 50 years old, Jewish, radio talk show host in Denver, Colorado. He broadcasted on KOA, one of the most powerful radio stations in the Rocky Mountain region. His show could be received in more than 30 states. Roger Ebert, who met Berg several times, described him in print as, quoting directly, a goofy-looking bird. Thin face, bristly white beard hiding the scars of teenage acne, reading glasses perched far down on his nose. On air, his voice was described by CBS journalist Morley Schaefer as the verbal version of a blunt instrument. He would start fires in the trash cans in his studio, light cigarettes and bat the microphone away, then lean back and say exactly what he thought. In January 1984, 6 months before he was killed, Berg appeared on 60 Minutes. The interviewer asked him if he was afraid. Berg laughed. He said, "Hopefully, my legal training will prevent me from saying the one thing that will get me killed." Then he laughed again. June 18th, 1984. I've read the police report. I've read the investigative file. Berg had been out for dinner. He was trying to reconcile with his ex-wife, Judith. He came home at approximately 9:30 p.m., parked his black Volkswagen Beetle in the driveway at 1445 Adams Street, Congress Park neighborhood, a quiet residential street, the kind of street where you park your car without looking around. He got out of his car. Two men are waiting. One is carrying a MAC-10 machine gun, illegally modified to fire automatically. What happens next takes less than 3 seconds. Alan Berg is shot 12 times. He dies in his driveway. His neighbor hears the shots, looks out her window, sees a car driving away slowly, like there's no hurry, because there isn't. Denver police arrive within minutes. They find Alan Berg on the ground, still in his coat, his keys still in his hand. The case goes cold. For a while. But the FBI is building something. Quietly. Following threads from the armored car robberies, tracing the money, tracing the weapons. And in the summer of 1984, those threads led to the name Robert J. Matthews. The investigation was logged under FBI case file 174A-SE-27402, Seattle Field Office. Portions of that file could be obtained through a Freedom of Information Act request. The order began to fall apart the way most criminal organizations do. Not from the outside, from within. In October 1984, a man named Thomas Martinez was arrested in Philadelphia. He'd been passing counterfeit bills, printed by the order. Martinez was a member, peripheral. But he knew names, he knew locations. And when federal prosecutors offered him a deal, he took it. Martinez became an informant. Working with the FBI, he arranged a meeting with Robert Matthews at a hotel in Portland, Oregon. November 1984. FBI surveillance teams outside. Matthews arrived. He spotted something. A surveillance vehicle, a face he recognized. an instinct honed by 18 months of running. He fled.
FBI, stop, motherfucker, or I will shoot!
A shootout followed in the hotel parking lot. A federal agent was wounded. Matthews escaped. Over the next 3 weeks, the order collapsed. Members arrested in Washington, in Idaho, in Colorado, documents seized, weapons recovered. Robert Matthews held up on Whidbey Island in Washington state, a small island in Puget Sound. Puget Sound is cold water country. Deep green, almost black in winter. The kind of water that doesn't forgive mistakes. Whidbey Island sits in the middle of it, 45 miles long, maybe 10 wide at its broadest. Pine forests running down to the edge of cliffs that drop straight into the water. Fog that rolls in off the sound and doesn't leave for days. Small towns where everybody knows which cars belong and which ones don't. In December, the days are short. Light for maybe 8 hours. The rest is gray sky, dark water, and the sound of wind moving through the Douglas fir. It's the kind of place a man could disappear, or think he could. He rented a house under a false name. He wrote letters, long, rambling letters to former comrades. They're part of the public record now, and the federal court exhibits from United States versus David et al. In one letter, Matthews wrote, "I am not going to surrender. I will fight to the last breath. I have too much to live for and too much to die for." December 7th, 1984. FBI agents converge on Whidbey Island. They call for him to surrender. He doesn't. What follows is a 36-hour standoff. Matthews alone in the house. FBI agents surrounding it in the December cold. He fires at agents multiple times. He refuses every attempt at communication. December 8th, 1984. FBI agents fire incendiary flares into the house. The structure catches fire. Agents wait for Matthews to come out. He doesn't come out. The house burns. The investigation continues for years after his death. Federal prosecutors charged 23 order members under the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organization Act, otherwise known as RICO. United States versus David Lane, Bruce Carroll Pierce, Richard Scutari et al. Case number CR 85-001M, Western District of Washington. That case number is searchable. The court records are accessible through PACER, the federal court document system. David Lane, the order's ideologist, convicted of racketeering, conspiracy, and violation of Alan Berg's civil rights, sentenced to 150 years. He died in federal prison in 2007. Bruce Carroll Pierce, identified by federal prosecutors as a triggerman in Alan Berg's murder, convicted, sentenced to 252 years. He died in federal prison in 2010. Richard Scutari, logistics coordinator, convicted, sentenced to 60 years, released in 2018. Sentences, names, case numbers, all public, all searchable. Robert Matthews has been dead for 40 years. The order has been dissolved for 4 decades. Every member is dead, released, or still incarcerated. But something remained. The Turner Diaries has sold more than 500,000 copies. It is still in print. David Lane wrote a document called The 14 Words while in federal prison. 14 words. We must secure the existence of our people and a future for white children. Those 14 words became the most widely used white supremacist slogan in the world. You'll find them in forums, on social media, and the manifestos of mass shooters. Christchurch, 2019. El Paso, 2019. Buffalo, 2022. written by a man serving 150 years for his role in murdering a radio host in Denver in 1984. The FBI's Domestic Terrorism Division still lists white supremacist extremism as the #1 domestic terror threat in the United States. That assessment is in the public record. Testified to before Congress multiple times, most recently in 2023. The Senate Judiciary Committee hearing from November 2023, Domestic Terrorism and Hate Crimes, examining the threat, is publicly available on congress.gov. The FBI's threat assessment documents are available. The FBI's threat assessment documents are available through their public reading room at vault.fbi.gov. Alan Berg's driveway at 1445 Adams Street in Denver still exists. It's a quiet residential neighborhood, the kind of street where people park their cars and walk to their front door without thinking about it. On June 18, 1984, Alan Berg did exactly that. And men who believed they were soldiers in a holy race war were waiting for him. Robert Matthews believed history would remember him. It did. Not the way he meant. The ideas that sent them to that driveway with a MAC-10 didn't die with Robert Matthews on Whidbey Island. They traveled. They adapted. They found new faces and new platforms. The order failed. The ideology didn't. You don't need a compound in Idaho anymore. On the next episode of this 3-part series, we examine the ideology. Where do the order's beliefs come from? Who taught them? Who funded them? And what happened to the organizations that radicalized Robert Matthews? Some of them still exist. This has been Blood and Soil, Episode 1, The Declaration, The Rise and Fall of the Order. Written and produced by Joe McReynolds. Narration by Dan Cooley. This has been File 187. Murder has a number, but every name deserves to be remembered. We'll be back. New stories, same purpose. Truth is louder when we listen. I'm Dan Cooley. Stay alert. Stay safe.